Hi, it's Simon Hobbs, or Sime or Simesy, and today I want to talk about Xdebug in VS Code using two platforms for local development, which is Lando and DDEV. And basically I want to walk through the three main things that you want to have set up in order to achieve this. First thing is making sure that when you look at a page in your browser that it's sending the right information to the Docker container, to the server. The second thing is making sure that that server has like Xdebug enabled in PHP. And then the third thing is getting your IDE, in this case VS Code, to be able to pick that up and to be able to apply the information it's getting from the server to the file system that it has open. The project that we're working on is the free source website. So the code is up there on GitHub that you can have a look at if you like. And we have I have the site running in DDEV and in Lando within the browser, and the code base in VS Code. And then in the terminal, I've just got, I've basically been using two terminal windows. I'm not going to run too many commands in here, but effectively I've just been running DDEV commands in one and Lando in the other. So I've got a single code base and I'm running two websites off that code base. So the first of the three things that I need to check is how my browser is sending information. I like to use this plugin called Xdebug Helper for Firefox by Brian Gilbert, who is a member of the Australian Drupal community. And essentially all it does is it gives you this little button in the toolbar. And when I click debug and then refresh the page, what I should be able to see is a cookie being set. So if I inspect the page, select the network tab, refresh, look at the first request, click on the cookies tab, and here you can see it's Xdebug session. And the main thing about that is that that the cookie name is Xdebug session. It doesn't actually matter what the cookie value is. So the second thing we want to do is look at how our Xdebug is enabled in Lando and DDEV. So first, if we look at this .lando.yaml, for this demonstration, I've just got Xdebug enabled. I'm not going to go in how you turn it on and off for Lando. It's been a little bit of a while since I've used it like that. But for this demonstration, having those values set will enable Xdebug in Lando. And then for DDEV, it's actually pretty simple just to turn Xdebug on and off. So you just type DDEV Xdebug. Let's do DDEV status. So we can see we've got our site running there. DDEV Xdebug on and DDEV Xdebug off. It can be really handy to ensure that you have Xdebug turned on by having a look in the status report in Drupal. So I'll just log into the site. And go to the report section, look under PHP for more information. And then here what you want to do is search for Xdebug. And you won't find it normally, and then when you run DDEV Xdebug on, you then should be able to refresh it and you find Xdebug on the page. And that means that you can be sure that Xdebug is loading. Okay, so then when we issue a request with that cookie, what should happen is that Xdebug should fire. And now we want to look at intercepting that in VS Code. Now in VS Code, I'm going to have to quickly talk through the plugins that I've got. Otherwise, if you don't have the right ones, you might run into trouble. You should only need one specific one, but I'm just going to talk about all the ones that I have. So you can see it's my VS Code. I've got my main sidebar on the right, so that when I open and close my sidebar, it doesn't affect my text. That's the only difference really. So if I jump here into the extensions, let's just have a quick look through these extensions. So I've got Composer extension, Drupal syntax highlighting, IntelliPHP, PHP, PHP profiler, and Windows colors. And the only one that really should matter here is this PHP debug. Okay, so that's the only plugin that really should matter. Now I haven't Other than what I'm about to show you, I haven't then configured anything in there, so I haven't changed any of the default settings in any of those extensions. But I'll show you what I have done. So when you're first going to set up your debugger, there's this little cog bar, and so basically you've got this little arrow sign on the right hand in the toolbar on the side. It says run and debug. You can get to that with Shift Command D. So if I go B and I go Shift Command D, and then this cog lets you basically create a default configuration. So if you don't have any configuration to start with, it's going to create a default configuration in this launch.json. So .vscode launch.json. Whether you commit this to your repository or not, it's entirely up to you. And what I've done is I've actually just customized it with just the information that works. So there's actually a few things in here. For example, you can profile your code with Xdebug. We're not really focused on this. We're just focusing on breakpoint debugging. So we're just doing only the configuration that we need for that. So you can see here I've got this. So I've taken what it gives me by default, and then I've customized 3 configurations. You can see when I drop down this box, I have DDEV Xdebug, Lando Xdebug, and GovCMS Xdebug, which is a little bonus. So all of these configurations are identical, and so they're all listening on port 9003. The main difference is that for the path mappings, depending on how Drupal is mapped into the container, this will affect this value. So for DDEV, inside the running container, your code will be in var html, whereas for Lando, it'll be in /app. And it also happens to be that for GovCMS, it will be in /app. So you have, and then this workspace route will basically be the path to wherever your code lives. So I've found that this, otherwise everything's the same. I have found that this host name should be optional, but for this bonus example that we've got here with GovCMS, we did have trouble getting it working, and we think that the host name, setting that host name actually fixed it. So look, I'll leave that with you. I've added and removed this host name a couple of times, but just in case that doesn't work for you, try adding that host name value. And then that gives us 3 configurations, which, as you can then see, we can then select which of these configurations that we want to run in this drop-down box. Okay, so with that all done, when we run it, we need to pick the right configuration so that it has the right path mapping. So we want to listen to the right configuration, otherwise they're not very different. So we're going to start with the Xdebug because we've just turned that on. So I'm going to take Xdebug and I'm going to hit the run button. And then we get what can be a little bit hard to see, and you can see I've customized mine to have this red outline, is this little play button. So we've got this little stop play set of buttons here that we can sort of move around to wherever it's convenient. So I'll just put it there. And then as I said, we go to the index.php, and we're not going to talk about where you're going to put your breakpoints. Let's put our breakpoints just in the main file, just to prove it works without waiting for anything. Okay, so now we've got to tick those 3 boxes. So the first one we've got to tick is we're going to go to our browser, and we want to make sure that we're going to start with that off, load the page, and then we're going to turn this Xdebug on, this debug setting on, and then the second thing is we're going to make sure that it's enabled for DDEV. So we come here and we've run the Xdebug on, and then the third thing is that we make sure that we have our configuration running, and we know that that's running when we see our little toolbar, and this, for me, that's going orange down the bottom. Okay, so now all we need to do now is just refresh the page. Okay, so there we have it. It's stopping on this breakpoint. If we hit this step over, we can go through each of the lines, and we can go into the code. So I'm not going to go into much detail about that. Only to say that's working. That's what you want. So now you can put breakpoints anywhere in your code, and you can inspect the variables, and it should be right. Okay, so let's stop that, and let's try that with Lando. So I'm going to drop down to. So firstly, take the 3 steps. So I go to turn this off. Go over to the Lando one. That's already on, so just going to turn it on, disable it, and then re-enable it. So turn it on. And then second step is to make sure that Xdebug's working in Lando. So I'm not gonna, like, basically, because Lando, I can inspect that in a number of different ways. But, you know, if I'm really wondering, I'm gonna log into the site, I'm gonna go to that status report, and I'm gonna look at PHP info. And then finally, I simply select the configuration, which has the right path mapping, and hit play on that. And then with any luck, whoops, and then with any luck, I should better refresh this and we get the breakpoint. Okay, so that's that. That's it for the video. Already a bit of a long video. I hope that really helps you, and I hope that helps you if you're a VS Code fan. Yeah, good luck. Thanks very much.